الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بعد. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Um, so let me once again welcome all of you to the Islamic Dawah Movement's Basic Islamic Course Level 2. A special welcome to those of you who are here for the first time and couldn't make it on Saturday. And welcome back to everybody who were with us on Saturday and returning tonight, inshallah. So just to reiterate a couple of things for those of you who might be new. Usually we keep all the video feeds off so that we would save the bandwidth during the call, and we also encourage everyone to keep their microphones on mute. Right now, the setting is not to allow you to unmute yourself so that we don't get the background noises and the dogs and the crickets running like you're hearing in my background right now. So I'm going to leave my video off so you wouldn't see me today so that you wouldn't have any nightmares tonight. But inshallah tonight, let me just share with you what we're going to do tonight. So those of you who attended, well, everyone would have gotten the presentation from Saturday, as well as a link to, just one second. Everyone would have gotten a link to the recorded session from Saturday. And I was supposed to send out this schedule, but it really slipped me to send it out, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to show you again. We went through this on Saturday, just to reiterate again. So on Saturday, we covered two sessions. We did an introduction to the course, as well as a session called The Miraculous Nature of the Quran. And I said during the course of the course, we will be focusing a lot on the Quran and understanding the Quran. And we did one session on the first part of three parts, understanding some of Allah's most common names and attributes. So tonight, inshallah, we're going to cover one session, which is the description of heaven. And when the session is finished, I'll just take you back through what we're going to cover this Saturday, inshallah, so you'll know what to look forward to. So tonight, inshallah, we have one of our beloved sisters from the Islamic Dawah Movement with us, Sister Ruqayya Abdullah. She's been with the IDM for probably as long as I've known her and more. And she's been active with us for many years. She also commonly assists with us in these programs, in these classes as well. So very happy to have Sister Ruqayya with us. So she will go through, inshallah, her session on the description of the hellfire. So I will ask Sister I will stop sharing my screen and I'll ask Sister Ruqayya to share her screen and go ahead with her presentation, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, tonight I am going to go through a description of Jannah, and I want everyone to keep in mind that one of the things about the description of Jannah is that often we hear about things that seem a bit strange and unusual to us. It's very difficult sometimes for us to understand how some of those things could be such a great bountiful blessing in Jannah, because it sounds so odd. So there are things that will sound a little odd, and we will also talk about things that are also a little bit familiar as well. So inshallah, we are going to talk about our existence, our relationship between our own lives as well as Jannah. And then we will essentially take a tour of Jannah. We're going to talk about some of the sights, the sounds, some of the emotions, and some of the things that you would experience in Jannah. And then, of course, we have to talk about, most importantly, how we are going to get there. So inshallah, as we begin, we will start talking about our own relationship with Jannah. One of the key things about Jannah is that, as many of us will know as Muslims, it's going to be a reward for any good things that we would have done. In Surah Al-Hijr, Allah promises that the muttaqeen, those who are pious and those who are righteous, are the ones who are going to enter Jannah. And one of the greetings of the angels are going to give to those who enter Jannah is that you are going to be greeted with peace. And so there are not going to be any of those feelings that we would have experienced in this world. There is not going to be anger or hatred or tiredness or jealousy or any of the things that are negative that we tend to know and understand in this world. So that is going to be far removed from us in Jannah. And of course, one of the issues that remains is that, and it's not really an issue, is that if it is that Jannah is a reward for those who do good, obviously those who reject Allah, reject the signs, reject the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is that there is no going to be opening of any of those gates into Jannah, right? And so there is not going to be a reward for those who sin. So as we talk about what we see in Jannah, one of the first things that Allah talks about is a person who is successful and what they receive and what they see and what they experience. And one of the things that a person will experience on the day of judgment is that they're going to receive their reward in their right hand. And they're going to be so excited. It's like somebody who does really good in a test. Students have SEA coming up pretty soon, and you get a big exam, and you get an A, and you want to share it with everybody, and you want to say, "Hey, look how well I did." And that is one of the things that people are going to experience. They are going to be given their reward, and their sins are going to be kept as a secret between themselves and Allah. And so their book of good deeds will be presented to them, and they'll be so proud, and that's something that they will want to share. And so that is the beginning of joy for those who are successful on the day of judgment. Then they are going to be allowed to enter through huge doors. And these are not just regular doors. These are doors that are beyond anything that we can ever possibly imagine. And so it's like if you go to the Buckingham Palace and there's a great big door, you reach a huge castle, there's going to be a huge ornate door. Forget about that. Everything in Jannah is going to be far greater than that. And these doors are going to be hundreds of kilometers wide. There are different ahadith that talks about the number of doors. One talks about four. There's other ones, narrations which talk about a total of about eight. So one example of one door is Bab as-Salat, and those are people who focus predominantly on their salah. They would be allowed to enter that particular door. People who give sadaqah, for example, will enter Bab as-Sadaqah. People who fast, especially in Ramadan and voluntarily outside of Ramadan, will enter Bab al-Rayyan. And so there are different types of doors based on Allah's mercy and based on your good deeds that you're going to be allowed to enter. When you enter Jannah, you are going to be greeted by the best of greetings. So if you go into a palace and you meet, for example, you meet some of the servants of that palace, right? And you are a welcome guest in that palace, you'll be greeted by servants who are well dressed and servants who are well articulate and who would offer you appetizers, for example, right? When you enter Jannah, those wonderful greeters are going to be the angels of Allah, right? And the angels of Allah are impossible for us to ever begin to count. And one of the things that they are going to tell us is that they're going to say, "Peace be unto you, enter paradise for what you used to do." So they are aware that you are entering Jannah because of a reward, and they will know exactly what kind of person you will because there you are in Jannah. Among the first to enter are going to be those who migrated purely for the sake of Allah. And these were the Muhajirin. The Muhajirin particularly refers to those who would have left Makkah to go to Medina during the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There are other scholars which would have included that there are some other individuals who are going to be considered among this group from later years, and those will be the ones who had to leave their homes because they were being persecuted and had to go to another place. And so, for example, we would recognize some of them as being refugees because they no longer have a home. So Allah knows best whether they are going to fall into that category as well. And so the first to enter Jannah would be the Muhajirin. In Jannah, there is no day and night. You're going to know it is night and day. There are going to be some curtains that are going to that is going to create night, but there is no sun and there is no moon, and there is no alteration of night and day, just alteration of periods of time. And so Jannah is full of lights upon lights upon lights. The first set of light that you're going to see is the light that is emanating from Jannah itself. The second set of light is light that comes from the Iman of people who enter Jannah. And then the third set of light is going to be the light of the angels. So Jannah is going to be extremely illuminated and very, very bright. The companions are going to be angels, and angels are going to enjoy every moment you have with them. So when they greet you at the gate and they are walking with you along that path, they are greeting you in your homes, you would say something and they would laugh and they will talk with you and they would treat you as if you are an honored guest, and they would treat you as if you know them for a very long time. And you will have that kind of rapport with the angels. So you can imagine having that relationship with angels. And as you go towards your home, you would know your home in the same way you know your home in this world. You know exactly where you're going. So just like if you were coming home one day and you were tired, or if you're driving and you're distracted, or you're eating, or you're talking to somebody, and all of those things that happen, you know exactly when to turn left, when to turn right, when to take the exit, because you know where you live. And as you go home to Jannah, to your home, you will know that home as if you've lived there your entire life, right? On the way there, the angels are going to be talking to you. So they may be telling you things that we have created. Your palace has this and your palace has that. And there's so many things they may talk to you about that is going to make you feel really excited to get to Jannah. I mean, to get to your home. Your palace is going to be decorated by the best of decorators. Allah has created specific creation that is going to be responsible for decorating your home or cooking your meal. That is their function. They would have been created to be your chef, or they would have been created to decorate your house. And so you are going to this place where you belong, where you know you belong, and it's a sense of feeling as if you are going home. Along your way, you're going to be seeing and experiencing many things. A lot of it, all of it, right, is going to be new. You're going to be seeing incredible scenery, trees, greenery, and all of those things along the way. There is a difference of opinion as to how men and women are going to be in their palaces. Um, Men, for sure, that is known from different scholars, is that they would walk to their palace. Um, it's possible that women may also walk, or they may be placed in their palace. However they get there, they would be beautified and waiting, dressed in the finest of garments and finest of silk. And so they would be in their places, in their palaces in Jannah, awaiting their husbands to come home. So Ibn al-Qayyum, a well-known scholar, articulated in a very poetic sounding narration where he talked about the things that you see in Jannah. And I took a couple of parts from it for this section. And he's essentially saying, if you ask about this, then this is what you would see. And so the first one is, if you ask about its ground and its soil, then it's musk and it's saffron. And this comes to one of the things that we talk about in Jannah, where it seems to be a bit strange, right? Um, because the musk that you smell in this world is nothing like the musk of Jannah. Essentially, we'll be prepared for the experiences that we have in Jannah, which is quite unlike the experiences that we have in this world. And so we talk about musk here, and we can smell perfume, and have an idea of what musk will smell like, or have an idea of what saffron will look like or feel like. But in Jannah, it is going to be far beyond anything that we could have understood or thought of or imagined in this world. He continued and he talked about, would ask about its rocks. They're just the pebbles that you would walk and kick on the ground, and they are pearls and jewels. And in this world, if we saw pearls and jewels on the ground, we wouldn't just ignore it, right? But this is just such a commonplace thing there. And it is not like pearls and jewels that we know in this world. It's far beyond that. And you would ask about its buildings, and they are made of bricks of gold and silver. Again, not like gold and silver that we know in this world, but we would recognize it as being gold and silver, but far more superior and far different from what we know. You would ask about its vastness, then the lowest of its people would have within his kingdom and walls and palaces and gardens the distance that would be traveled in 1,000 years. So if this is just palace of one person, and the vastness of that palace is span 1,000 years. We will talk a little bit about tents and some of the tents that you would see, because they are 30 kilometers long and 30 kilometers high. And just the vastness of one individual's reward in Jannah is going to be so much, far less for everyone else on all of the different levels. In a particular hadith narrated by Sa'd al-Khudri, there is a tree in Jannah that is so huge that if a rider of a swift horse has to cover its distance from one end to another in 100 years, he will not be able to do so. And in this particular hadith, the horses that are talked about is referred to in the Arabic word as mudammar. And mudammar are specifically well-trained, well-bred horses that are fattened by given large quantities of food. And then slowly they begin to remove the amount of food, and it's made to exercise and sweat in a hot room so that it loses weight. So essentially, it is well groomed and well trained. So in the Arabic narration, it's understood that when you say the word mudammar, you know exactly what kind of horse this is. This is not just a pony. This is a specific horse that is one of the most swiftest horses that has been known to exist in this world. So we're thinking about a horse that is going to be able to move far faster than any horse that we are accustomed to. And some of the things that we see, trees that do not contain um, anything other than these very colorful leaves, and the trunks are going to be made of gold and silver, which still sounds very odd to us because we are familiar with um, slightly variations of colors of tree leaves, but these are colors beyond which we've ever seen. Have we ever seen a tree that grows from silver and gold trunks? No, we've never seen that, and it's not going to be anything that we can imagine. You can think about what it may look like, but it will never come close to what it actually going to be. Um, the fruits that are going to hang from those trees are going to be softer than butter and sweeter than honey. The leaves themselves are going to be softer than the finest and softest of cloth. And the rivers are going to be of different types. We're going to have rivers of milk that will never spoil. We would have rivers of wine that is delicious, but it will never intoxicate. There are going to be rivers of honey that is clear and very pure, and there are going to be rivers of water that are fresh, that is fresh. And so we're going to have different types of rivers that you're going to be able to see in Jannah. So you are walking along that path, going to Jannah, taking in all these sights, the smells, the sounds, and of course you will get to your palace. And your palace is not going to be a regular kind of palace that you would see in this world, like Buckingham Palace, right? Which we are familiar with. Um, Huge, but nothing in this world exists like the palace that you're going to have. And so your palace are going to have rooms that will take 30 days for you to even cross that room. Palaces are going to be made of bricks of gold and silver. One of the bricks is better than the whole world and anything the sun has ever risen on. And we talk about the things that, or the price and the value of things, or the price and value of pure gold, or the price and value of this rare jewel that could be found in this world. And nothing in this world is going to be in comparison to a single brick that one of the palaces are going to be made of. And the bricks are going to be held together by pure musk. And this comes to another point where we talk about things that are difficult for us to conceptualize, because here you have musk in whatever form that is going to hold together your bricks. So it's not going to be like cement or the typical mortar that we know, but it's going to be pure musk. What that musk smells like, Allah knows best. What that musk looks like, Allah knows best. The tents in Jannah are going to be made of a single hollowed pearl, the length of which is 60 miles in the sky. And they're going to be towers. And in those towers are going to be rooms above rooms that have rivers flowing underneath them. And how far in the sky do we reach? You will look at the shining star that is visible, as well as those that are far in the heavens that the eyesight cannot possibly reach. And that is your home. As far as the eyesight, right, can possibly reach. Its beds are going to be made out of the finest of silk, so we can forget 100% cotton that people will enjoy in this world, right? Or nice silk that we can enjoy in this world. The silk that is going to be just on your blankets, just your bedding, is going to be far superior than anything that you can ever have. So what will you have? So you would have drinking cups, crystal clear, made of gold and silver. So here we have another description that is a bit odd. So you have gold and silver being crystal clear. We have a small place in Jannah that is better than the whole world, right? And as this world would end, while Jannah will be eternal. The dwellers of Jannah will see the upper abodes of Jannah on the different levels of Jannah, just as which we would see the stars in the sky at night in this world. So you would have thrones to recline on. Remember, in Jannah, you are not going to be working. Worship is for an act of this world. So you will not be, you have to go and pray a salah and you have to go do this and you have to go do that. No, that's not going to happen in Jannah. Your fruits, whatever fruits on any tree, are going to be within reach. You're going to have servants. You are not going to have to do any of the work. You are going to have your spouse's righteous company that you would have in this world with you there. You would have your family with you as well. Your clothes is going to be of the finest materials. And of course, you're going to be, you would have drinks of wine, which does not intoxicate, right? Some of that wine is going to come from a spring that is referred to as tasneem. And that spring is going to be one of the springs that is nearest to Allah. In a particular hadith that is narrated by Tauban, in that hadith, it is asked what is going to be the first meal in Jannah. Now you get two things. The first thing is going to be the appetizer, and you're going to be offered, it's essentially the liver of a fish or the liver of a whale, right? And it's another thing that sounds weird. A lot of people may not want to eat fish liver. Doesn't really sound appealing, right? The second thing is going to be a bull, which will be slaughtered for you by a creation that would have been created to prepare this. The animals would have been placed in Jannah. They would have been grazing in Jannah, right? They are there right now, awaiting for your arrival, and they will be slaughtered for you, and they will be given to you to eat. It's going to be beef, but it is not like the beef that we know. And then after you eat that, you're going to be offered a drink from a spring called salsabil, right? And so here we have another description of things that sound strange. So you've like, okay, I get to Jannah, and first thing I get to eat is fish liver, and then beef. You may not like beef, but just remember there is nothing that is going to make you feel discontent or make you feel as if, well, I don't like beef, I really wanted something else. You are going to feel such great joy at eating this. It's not going to be the beef that you know in this world. Allah knows best as to why we eat whale liver, and a lot of scholars have debated for quite a while as to why that is, but it's one of those things that Allah knows best. That sounds strange to us, but Allah really knows best. So you're going to go to a bazaar. At this bazaar, you are going to have the option of shopping all you want. You are not going to be limited by a credit card limit, for example. You won't have to wait long if you're getting something at your bazaar, as long as you may wait for something to arrive from Amazon. It's not the same. Everything in the bazaar is going to be freely available. There's going to be a period of time which is going to be referred to as JANNAH, which we know like in this world. And in that particular time, people are going to gather at that point in time on JANNAH. And when they return from JANNAH, they are going to be far more beautiful than they were, right? And your wife will be far more beautiful than she was. And so you go to JANNAH and you experience that change, that beauty, and you come back. So it's not like in this world where after time, your looks fade and you get older and you get wrinkles. No, it's not going to happen, right? You're going to remain the same age. And as time goes by, you're actually going to increase in beauty. So in a hadith narrated in Sahih Muslim, and I'm just gonna go through that hadith. In Jannah, there's a market to which the people will come every Friday. The northern wind will blow and shower fragrance on their faces and their clothes, and consequently, it will enhance their beauty and loveliness. They will then return to their wives, who will also have increased in their beauty and loveliness, and their family will say to them, "We swear by Allah that you have increased in beauty and loveliness since leaving us." Thereupon they will reply, "We swear by Allah that you have also increased in beauty and loveliness since we left you." So that continual increase in beauty is going to happen all of the time. Abu Hurairah, radiallahu anhu, narrated that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Allah the Exalted has said, I have prepared for my righteous slaves what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and the mind of man of no man has conceived. If you wish, recite, no person knows what is kept hidden for them of joy as a reward, but that which they used to do." And this hadith is narrated by Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, and the ayah occurs in the 32nd surah. Um, and so what is interesting is that even though we do know, or we have a lot of quite a few narrations as to what we will see and what we will experience in Jannah, it is in no way, how should I say, it is in no way equivalent to what it actually is. Much of that is unknown to us. Much of that remains unknown to us. Those who are at the highest level of Jannah are going to experience things that has not even been described in any form whatsoever to us in this world. And so even though we hear some ideas or some descriptions, it doesn't do justice as to what actually exists, and no description or no discussion as to what exists in Jannah can ever actually do justice to what there actually is. Because Allah is reminding us that this is not anything that any mind could ever conceive of, or what any ear has ever heard, or what any eyes has ever seen. And this includes angels as well. And there are so many things that are going to be unknown to us that would remain as a reward for those who do righteousness. So what will you be like? A hadith which was narrated from Jabir radiallahu anhu said, the Prophet of Allah said, the inhabitants of Jannah will eat and drink therein, but they will not pass excrement. They will not blow their noses or urinate. Their food will be digested, producing a belch which will give out a smell like that of musk. They will be inspired to declare the freedom of Allah from imperfection and proclaim His greatness as easily as you breathe. So there are no smells. You don't have to go and shower because you're sweaty. You're not gonna, sweat will have a particular smell. You're not gonna smell like that. You're not gonna need to use the bathroom. There are other narrations which talked about a woman can get pregnant, but is going to get pregnant and give birth within the hour, whatever time of period that hour is, Allah knows best. And is going to return to her pre-birth self within that short space of time. So Allah really knows best, what you're going to look like. As for the age of the inhabitants of Jannah, they're going to be young. You're never going to age around the age of 33. It's going to be considered the your youth, in which you're going to be strong and possibly quite wise at the age of 33. And so that is going to be the general age in Jannah. And specifically, there are a few descriptions of the women of Jannah. They're divided into different groups. So we have the Hur al-Ain, which are going to be a specific type of creation. And of course, they're going to be the women of this world who would have earned Jannah. So the Hur al-Ain are considered to be fair females with lovely wide eyes, right? And they are described in Surah Safat as being chaste. They desire no one except their husbands, delicate and pure. And the description of the Hur al-Ain is quite unusual as well. Now, the description at the time, and the Prophet ﷺ would have been talking to Arabs, he would not have described or talk about women who had blue eyes, for example, because that would have been very foreign to Arabs. So the description talks about women having pitch black irises against extremely white scleras and very large eyes. And the Arabs at that time, that was some of the things that they considered to be beautiful among women, dark eyes, really white scleras and really large eyes, which we kind of see in Disney cartoons where they have all of these drawings of princesses and they have very, very large eyes, which looks quite unusual, but they're extremely large. And when we think about for different men, or what is going to be beautiful different men and different types of men, Allah knows best what men will in particular experience, or what women in particular will experience. This is an example of what will be considered to be beautiful, right? So even if you don't like black eyes, Allah will provide for you that which you believe to be beautiful and attractive as well. So the women of Jannah, described as, when we look at the first group to enter paradise will look like the moon. So their face will be bright, and each man among them will have 2 wives whose marrow can be seen beneath their flesh, and there's no one in Jannah who is going to be unmarried. And when we talk about their, the marrow being seen, it's another thing that sounds strange, because most people will not find transparent women attractive, or probably anyone will find transparent women attractive. And so it sounds very strange to us, but it's not something that you're going to be dissatisfied by when you do see it. The Quran, the Hadith is particularly silent in terms of the number of spouses that women would have. A lot of times women read this particular hadith, think about what men will have multiple wives, what women have. Allah will give women anything they desire. What is it? Different scholars have argued that in particular, men seem to be more inclined to numbers and women seem to be more inclined to quality. A woman would want different things, women would want numbers. And so Allah doesn't confine what women want in a particular narration. And so He's silent for wisdom, just because women are all so different, right? So women will have that which they want and what they desire. In particular, women of this world, many times when they read about Hur al-Ain, they kind of feel as if, well, if my husband has a second wife and she's Hur al-Ain, will I feel something towards her? Will I feel jealousy? Will I feel upset? The wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Salama, had a discussion like that, right? And she asked him, "O Rasulullah, are the women of this world superior to the Hur al-Ain?" And he said, "The women of this world will have superiority to the hurs, just as the outer lining of a garment has superiority to the inner lining." And this is something specifically that I think women will always understand, that when you line a dress, you're not going to use the best part of that dress. If it's a silk dress, you're not going to use the grandest of silk to line your dress. You'll probably use a cheaper cotton. You'll probably use something that is rough in comparison to what your dress looks like on the outside, because it's not really going to be seen. And it's just of inconsequence. You don't really care what that lining looks like, it just has a function, right? And the beauty of that dress is what's going to matter, what you see on the outside. And so in particular, the description that he gives is something that women will really understand and will resonate with them, that the Hur al-Ain are going to be in comparison the inner lining. So he's telling Salama essentially that you have nothing to worry about, or you have no reason to ever feel as if they are going to be more superior to you, because they're not. She then asked him, "O Rasulullah, what is the reason for this?" And he said, "Because they performed salah, they fasted, they worshipped Allah. Allah will put light on their faces and silk on their bodies. The human woman will be fair in complexion and will wear green clothing and yellow jewelry. Their incense burners will be made of pearls and their combs will be made of gold." And so we talk about the Hur al-Ain, and there's a lot of times a lot of focus on them, and oftentimes there's not a lot of focus on what the woman in this world would be like, and what, one of the things that the woman of this world would have gone through is that striving on Allah's path, that difficulty they would have gone through, everything that they would have done to worship Allah. And then you could look at all of the challenges that women would face, whether it's wearing hijab or raising children. There is a reward for all of that. And so women of this world are going to be far more superior to the Hur al-Ain.
Require just excuses. You have also about 7 to 8 minutes remaining, right?
Okay, no problem. So the last to enter Jannah would be a particular man who is going to feel as if when he enters Jannah that everything that would have been taken up, all of the inhabitants of Jannah would have had everything, and there is not going to be much left for him. And one of the things that, in a conversation that Musa alayhi salam would have had with Allah, um, He would be told that you would have whatever your soul desires and whatever your eyes can delight in. And he would be so happy that even if you are the absolute last person and you will not want to be that person, but nonetheless, the absolute last person in Jannah, you will still have a great reward. And one of the greatest reward that anybody would have in Jannah is to be able to see Allah. And your ability to see Allah would be just as well as you can see the moon, a full moon, on a dark night. Very clearly, the moon will be visible, and you'll be able to see Allah with much great ease. So, how do we get there? So, talking about Jannah, learning about Jannah is one thing, but of course, this must be able to motivate us in order to get there. Now, some of the acts that we should focus on in trying to get there would be the five pillars of Islam, our fard acts, things that would build our iman. So, for example, many people have options. They can attend a webinar or class or course or practice reading Quran, or they could watch Netflix, right? Some people choose to watch Netflix every night, or for hours a night, or some people choose to do something that benefits them, or build their faith. And so any of those options are going to be something that is going to be a key to Jannah, right? Because we talked about those different doors, right? Sadaqah, fasting, all of those things are good things to be able to get to Jannah. Any opportunity that you have to do a small deed, you should, right? And those are going to open your doors to Jannah. Um, I just want to give an example of a particular small deed. So fairly long story that I'll try to condense as much as possible. One of the great Imams, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, um, at the time, he was well known, most famous, and his funeral was probably the biggest funeral that has ever been attended by anyone in this world. And he was traveling one night and he needed to find a place to stay. And that particular night, he went to a particular masjid and he was thrown out of the masjid. He didn't tell the guy, well, I am Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He didn't do that. He was thrown out. And across the road from the masjid was a baker. Baker saw what was happening. And the baker told him, put his hand shoulder and say, you can come and spend the night and stay with me and stuff. Still doesn't know who he is, right? And then he put a place for him to stay. And he was distracted by this baker, what he was doing. The baker said, well, he has to work tonight. So everything he did, he was saying, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Subhanallah. And he just continued like that. Allah is free from imperfection. Praise be to Allah. There is no true God except Allah, and Allah is the greatest. He just kept on muttering that. Every time he made flour, every time he did anything, over and over and over and over. And Imam Ahmad was, kind of surprised, because usually people will kind of get a little tired of, repeating the same thing over and over and over. So he asked him, what has been a reward for, performing the dhikr of Allah so much? And the man said, well, everything I've ever asked Allah for, I've gotten, except one thing. I've asked Allah to meet Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and I've never met him. And Ahmad ibn Hanbal laughs because he realized that was the reason why he was thrown out of the masjid, because here's this man continually making the dhikr of Allah, and he wants to meet him. And so Ahmad ibn Hanbal goes through all of this, gets thrown out of the masjid in order to meet this man, for Allah to fulfill his wish. So little simple acts of worship like that, remembrance of Allah, when we work or when we do things throughout the day, is going to be a good way for us to get closer to Allah. Ibn al-Qayyim also mentioned that there are 4 types of people, and some of these people are people that we should try to stay close to. Of the 4 groups would be food, medicine, a disease, and poison. And we would want to stay close to people who are like food. Those are people who are going to remind us of Allah. And we want to stay away from people who are like poison, who are corrupt. And as much as possible, we want to make an effort to be in the company of those people who always remind us of Allah. Now, there was a particular Sahabi whose parents died, and when his parent passed away, he was weeping, and he was asked, why are you crying? Now, it wasn't just because his father died, he was crying because he said his biggest door to Jannah is now shut, because that opportunity to be able to serve his father would be a great opportunity for him to earn Jannah. And that sadness came from not having that opportunity available to him. Practicing patience is one of the other opportunities that we have. Um, and the life of a believer is about practicing patience, especially when we go through difficulty. And we are constantly reminded that um, we are not going to get to Jannah without the mercy of Allah. Um, and in this particular hadith, which was narrated by Abu Huraira, um, he heard the Messenger of Allah say, when Allah created the creatures, he wrote in the book which is with him over his throne, "Verily, my mercy has prevailed my wrath." So for all of us, we always have to remember to request that mercy of Allah. And so when we talk about Jannah, we always have to remind ourselves that essentially Jannah is for us to go back home to get to our real goal, and that is our objective here in this world. We did talk about the kind of things that we would see in Jannah, and of course, knowing that we want to go back to Jannah one day, inshallah, it means that we have to do what is required for us to work towards getting to Jannah. So it means doing the things that require us to, that will help us build our iman, ensuring that we keep company people who would feed us and remind us of goodness, service to our parents, and things like patience. And so these are just a couple of examples. And this would bring me to the end of my topic, description of Jannah, and I will hand you back to Anu.
All right, thanks very much, Sister Rokhaya, for a very thorough presentation. So, alhamdulillah, she was able to cover quite a lot in the short time that we had. So, as usual, we will make the slides available for those of you, well, for everybody really, because it could sometimes be a little bit much to keep up with and to take note of. So, we just have a few minutes. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask Sister Rokhaya, then you can either you can raise your hand and we will unmute you in order to ask the question. So I just or you can type the question in chat window and I'll read it out. So just leave a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions, and then we will bring things to a close, inshallah. All right. Well, don't seem to have any questions. So, alhamdulillah, the session that we would have done is really just a drop in the bucket on, the details of Jannah. And it really is, knowing so much about Jannah is really supposed to inspire us to want Jannah and to want to be in this place for eternity. So, I really hope that what we would have covered tonight will help all of us to be able to feel motivated and enthusiastic in working harder to achieve Jannah. And that is what the session is about, inshallah. So let's just take a quick look at what we have coming up on Saturday, inshallah. So on Saturday, we have two sessions. So we will, as I said, we talked about the Quran on Saturday one, introducing the miraculous nature of the Quran. Why is the Quran so amazing? And in Saturday's session, inshallah, we will be talking about how to understand the Quran, how to approach this science called tafsir, which is the understanding of the Quran. How do we go about understanding the Quran? There's a particular science, there's a particular method, there are particular things to look at in order to maximize our understanding of what we read from the Quran. So we'll be going through that in a basic way on Saturday, and then we have the next session, like today, a session on the description of the hellfire. So inshallah, make sure to tune in on Saturday, inshallah. And for those of you who didn't register, there was a link that went out with our email. You can make sure to register via the online form. And inshallah, as always, if you have any questions, you have any comments, you have anything you want to run by us and you don't feel to do it in the Zoom meeting itself, then you can feel free to send us a message or send us an email and we'll be sure to answer it, inshallah. So if there are no questions and no anything else anybody needs clarified, then we could bring things to a close and say thanks to everybody for attending tonight. And it's a working night. So inshallah, we will see you on Saturday, inshallah. Look out for the slides and look out for the link on YouTube as well. You can always look at the replay, inshallah. Take care, guys. We'll end with dua for kafara and surah al-Asr. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.